Hi, my name is William McFarland. I'm the programming coordinator for AOC Community Media. Today we are going to talk a little bit about the body of the RED camera kit, not to be confused with a RED camera, but this is a JVC GY-HM100. And what I'm going to do is going from the lens to the rear of the camera, I'm just going to kind of talk about what's on the body, what things do. And how you can best control your camera. So, starting with the lens, you have right here, right behind the lens, right where my finger is, and I'll kind of turn so you can see it, is a little switch that goes up and down. What this switch does is it opens and closes the camera hood. So I'm going to kind of turn so you guys can see by flipping it up. I am open, and then flipping it closed. This is to keep debris and fingerprints and other gradue off of your lens when your camera's not in use. Anytime you're not recording, you want to make sure that this is closed so that you're not getting anything in there. As you travel backwards from the hood, you'll see a little ring that turns here. It's a variable speed ring, and what this does is one of two things. This will either control your focus or your zoom. And the way you tell the camera which of the two things to control is by using this switch right here. It says focus and zoom, and by flipping it up, you're on focus, and then by flipping it down, this now becomes a zoom ring. Normally, personally, I keep this on focus because I like to manually focus all my shots. And there's another spot on the camera that I'll show you in just a second where you can control your zoom. Right behind that is your ND filter. Up is on, down is off. This is great for bright sunny days when you're out in the world shooting music festivals or anything like that. Indoors, generally, you leave this off. Right behind the ND filter is that focus zoom that I talked about. And then underneath you have two little buttons that may be kind of hard to see. This button right here says AF/MF, and then this button right here says full automatic. Now what these buttons do, when I press the AF/MF button, it's going to change the camera from autofocus to manual focus and then back again. What the full auto button does is it takes the camera into manual mode or out of manual mode and into automatic mode. Now the difference there is you can be in manual focus, but still have your camera controlling your iris, your shutter speed, your white balance, all of those things. But if you want to control all those things, your iris, your shutter, your white balance, then you would go ahead and pressing this button, turn the camera onto full manual mode. And then from there you can adjust your iris, your shutter, and I'll show you all those buttons in just a second. Beneath these two buttons, you have a couple of toggle switches. You have a gain toggle switch and a white balance toggle switch. These are all just presets for both your gain and your white balance. These presets can only be used when you are in manual mode on this camera. If you're in full automatic, the camera is going to decide what your gain is, what your white balance should be, etc. If you are in full manual and you're using these presets and you decide you do not like your white balance presets, you can go ahead and manually white balance this camera. The way you do that is right here, kind of at the front, underneath this focal ring, is a little white balance button. It's kind of hard to see, but it's right here at the front. When you've got your white balance card or whatever set up underneath your light source, you go ahead and zoom in all the way, push this button, depress this button, and hold it until your camera tells you that it has been white balanced, then you can release it. And as long as your light doesn't change, your white balance won't either. Next to these two toggle switches, you have a button, an AB button. What this AB controls is these SD card slots. This camera records to two SD cards, class 6 through 10. And depending on which slot you stick your card in, the camera will tell you that you're either recording to the A slot or you're recording to the B slot. If you want to change that, you just go ahead and press that AB button, and it'll switch it from whatever slot it's using to the slot that's not being used. Now, in order to do that, you do have to have 2 SD cards in here. Otherwise, it'll just stay on whichever slot has an SD card in it. As I travel back along the camera, you will see the viewfinder. Now, we ask that you be a little gentle with the viewfinders. These cameras have seen some usage, and these viewfinders are getting a little weak. So just kid gloves when you're messing with these viewfinders. You don't need to be rough with them. They'll turn and adjust any way you need them to. But there's no need to be rough with them at all. So on the viewfinder, you'll notice a couple of buttons. You have an index button, an index button, a joystick, and then a record button. This record button will start the camera recording. It's one of 2 record buttons on this camera, and I'll show you the other one here in just a moment. But the index and the joystick will help you navigate the media that's on this camera. And this joystick will also help you navigate your internal menus. Now, to access your internal menus, you'll notice some buttons in here. You have camera media and menu, and then towards the bottom, you have display, Q index, or Q review, menu, camera media, and user. You'll also notice some user buttons up here. You'll never need to mess with these user buttons. These are strictly for internal usage for AOC staff. They have some presets on there that we've loaded on, and a good way to mess up your footage is by pressing those user buttons and then seeing what happens. So to access your menu, you want to go ahead and press the menu button, and then once you've done that, your menu will pop up. Now from here, you can use this joystick to go ahead and set your record mode, to set your file format, to set your frame rate. Pretty much any of the internal workings of the camera can be controlled from this menu. And then to exit the menu, you just hit that menu button one more time, and it'll turn it off. You'll notice too that there was a display button in there. What that display button does is you can see all this stuff that's displayed on the viewfinder. By hitting that display button, it will either show you this display or it will hide this display. Now, none of this display is recorded to your footage. It's simply there so you can know how much time you have left on your cards, what your audio levels look like, how much battery you have, etc. But if you're tired of looking at that, hitting this display button that's underneath the viewfinder will hide all of that for you. All right, so moving along to the back of the camera, you have your eyepiece. Your eyepiece will do everything that your little viewfinder will do on the front. It's just another way of looking through the camera to get your image. And then you've got 3 buttons right here and a little toggle wheel. These buttons are iris, shutter, and exposure. And all 3 of these buttons are controlled with this toggle wheel. So when you're in full manual mode, in order to adjust your iris, to adjust your shutter, or to adjust your exposure, you would simply press the one you want. In this case, let's say my iris. I would press my iris button. And now if I wanted to open up my iris or close my iris, I would use this toggle wheel by pressing up to open it and down to close it. The same is true with my shutter and also with my exposure. I just press the button I want, and then by going up with the wheel, I can either increase the value, or going down with the wheel, I will decrease the value. You'll also notice right here is a little button. All this button does is releases this battery. Let me turn the camera off real quick. And now when I press this button, the battery just kind of slides off. This battery goes on and off without any problems. It should just slide on with a click. If you're having to force it or fight with it, then that means there's something not right with it, and you should find an AOC staff person to assist you, because it really is very, very simple to get these batteries to slide on and off. Next to that battery release, you'll notice I've got my second record button. This is the one most people use. And then next to that, I have my mode wheel. My mode wheel turns the camera on and off, puts it in standby, etc. Right above that, let me lower this. Right above that, you have a little silver button that is the snapshot button. This will take a snapshot of any of the footage you're recording. And then right above that is your zoom toggle, wide and tight. All right, so as I turn the camera, you will notice that there's a big honking mic on here and 2 XLR inputs. This microphone is what comes with the kit, typically plugged into input 1. It can be plugged into either one, but whichever input you're not using, feel free to plug in another mic, plug in a sound system, however you want to do it. The main functionality of these cameras is the extra XLR input. So you've got your XLR here, and then if you turn it around, you have all your controls for that audio. So right here is your input select. If you're on input 1, you want it switched to input 1, vice versa for input 2. Then right here for both inputs, you have the type of mic you're using. The mic that comes with the camera requires what's known as phantom power, which is why this is set to mic plus 48V. The V stands for volts. That means this is feeding power to this microphone to make it work. Not all microphones will require phantom power. If they don't, then you want to switch those toggle switches from mic plus 48V to just mic. If you're using something like a sound system or some other input that is not necessarily a microphone, you can go up one more to your line input. Then finally, next to the input method, you have automatic and manual for both inputs. Right now, I believe they're set to manual. When they're set to manual, you have volume control right here with these 2 little wheels that go up and down from 0 decibels to, I think, 10. And as you're adjusting these, you can listen to your audio via this little panel right here. If I can get it open. A set of headphones will plug in right here where this panel flops open. And on the front of this panel, you can't see it because it's black on black, is a little picture of headphones. So when you find that little picture of headphones, you can open this little door, and behind it, you will find headphone input. As far as as far as automatic goes on the audio inputs, the camera will control your levels on both of your inputs simultaneously, and you will not have to worry about it. We still recommend listening to your audio to make sure it's not garbled or distorted in any way, but failing that, on your display and in your viewfinder, you will have audio levels right here. And if I switch over to mic plus 48 volts, you can see my audio levels coming through right now. And so that's a good way to just monitor the volume of your audio without necessarily monitoring whether it's distorted or not. For that, you would need headphones. So that about covers it for the Red Kit. Thank you very much for watching. Please come and check out our equipment.